welcome to the first ever episode of the Semicolon Podcast, powered by Project 9. We are your hosts, Jesslyn and Yvonne, the founders and directors of Project 9.
To give a brief introduction of who Project 9 is and why we decided to start this podcast, Project 9 is an organization we founded in 2020 with a goal to engage youth in 21st century discussions with our platform.
In 2021, we started the Semicolon chapter of our story. Here we hope to challenge the stigma around youth mental health and foster an uplifting and supportive environment for students, families, and educators.
And also, our podcast will feature two types of episodes. One, we have our general episodes where we include information from guest speakers who have expertise in the topic being discussed. Two, we have our It's Okay to Not Be Okay episodes where we share the stories and experiences of others.
Yep, and with the Semicolon Podcast, we really hope to promote an understanding as well as a common language around the subject of mental health. We want to spread the message that it's really time to start the tough conversation and be comfortable with its discomfort. Episode 1, The Start of Our Story.
We want to first introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Heather Stewart, who we had the honor of communicating with for Semicolon. Currently, Dr. Stewart is the holder of the Bell Canada Mental Health Research Chair and a full professor at Queen's University.
She is also the Senior Consultant to the Mental Health Commission of Canada's Opening Minds, as well as the Chair of the World Psychiatric Association's Stigma and Mental Health Scientific Section.
Wow, and yeah, Dr. Stewart also has extensive experience in mental health service research and will be referring to information from her interview responses to us, along with studies and research she has done in this podcast episode. Without further ado, let's start talking about mental health.
From our intro, Semicolon's main goal is to challenge the stigma around youth mental health. And to do this, we really need to first get an understanding of the different types of stigma and their significance in our lives. Just like discrimination and oppression, there are multiple types of stigma, each a negative misrepresentation of a certain topic. We are focusing on minimizing the public and self-stigma, as we believe these two types are the most prominent and universal.
Yeah, and for general definitions of these terms, the American Psychiatric Association defines public stigma as the involvement of the negative or discriminatory attitudes that others have about mental illness. Then the APA refers to self-stigma as the negative attitudes, including internalized shame that people with mental illness have about their own condition. These thoughts will then lead to a lower self-esteem and delays in help-seeking support.
Also, stigma is a huge part of the discrimination of certain social characteristics, and according to Dr. Stewart, public and self-stigma are mutually reinforcing. In her written interview responses to us, she wrote, "Public stigma creates expectations and stereotypes that individuals with a mental illness internalize. Some notable stereotypes of people with mental illnesses are that they are dangerous, incompetent, to blame for their disorder, and unpredictable. These are all components of the public stigma, and this leads to an internalization of self-stigma. A common thought people with self-stigma may express is, 'Why should I try? Someone like me is not worthy of good health.'"
For sure, and in simple terms, this is a never-ending cycle of negativity. It is incredibly important to highlight this since not only do these stereotypes and misconceptions strip away opportunities of employment, healthcare, housing, and even education, they also pose as an obstacle in one's journey of help-seeking, sharing, recovering, and self-accepting.
100%. In today's world, apart from the influences of institutionalized prejudice, cultural influences, and etc., inappropriate portrayals of mental health in the media can also stigmatize mental illnesses. After reading Dr. Stewart's article named "Media Portrayal of Mental Illness and Its Treatments," we wonder how these misrepresentations can affect students and teenagers' understandings of mental health.
Yeah, and pop culture definitely has a huge influence on society's perception of a certain topic. And Dr. Stewart mentioned how negative media images of people with a mental illness began early as animated cartoons. As such, very young people already have an idea of how to think about people with a mental illness.
Of course, we start getting exposure to mental health in our early ages through movies and pop culture. Unfortunately, not all of the info we are exposed to leads us to the correct understanding of this important topic. For instance, the movie Joker, premiered in 2019, has portrayed a person suffering from mental illnesses as someone who is violent and dangerous. Studies show that this film actually increased prejudice and misconceptions of mental illnesses such as schizophrenia and bipolar disorder.
Definitely. I can't imagine how hurtful these influences can be for those just exploring mental health and for those who are experiencing it. Dr. Stewart also touched on how it can be harmful to those who need to seek professional help or to get support. She said, if during adolescence they become mentally ill, they will expect to be stigmatized and may avoid seeking professional help and may avoid friends, all of which can make a mental illness worse.
It was surprising and devastating to see how a simple character or cartoon episode can lead to worsening symptoms and isolation. Speaking of this, I think it is very important to remind our listeners that we need to obtain our information from credible sources.
Very true, and it is important for us to be mindful of those around us and to engage and foster a supportive environment. Our words and actions have direct influences on our peers, and so we need to make conscious decisions to refrain from saying words or doing something that can hurt others. Dr. Stewart also mentioned teachers could help students be more critical of the message they're receiving through media and through online materials.
This segues perfectly into our next topic. Being students ourselves, we are relating a lot of what we do to start conversations around mental health in schools. Within our own school and by reaching out to international schools, we are engaging students in a global discussion around how we can support each other in a positive and uplifting community.
And one thing we emphasize in this discussion is that to increase the positivity of something, we must also reduce the negativity around it. Dr. Stewart advises on some ways teachers and students can prevent negative responses about mental health and ensure a supportive community for everybody. Quoting part of Dr. Stewart's response, teachers can look for materials that can be used in class to raise awareness about mental illnesses and the harmful impact of stigma.
With this, we recommend all of you as our listeners to access the multitude of free and available resources online. Educators and organizations can even consider building their own mental health and wellness curriculum with the assistance of such resources and professionals in the field. Like Dr. Stewart says, classroom projects could include learning from people who have recovered from a mental illness and who have told their stories online. Our research from Harvard Business Publishing Corporate Learning tells us storytelling is very effective for learning. Not only does this form a speaker-audience connection, but also builds trust and allows the audience to have a more open mind to what they're about to hear.
Definitely, Dr. Stewart also emphasized that it is important to take the conversation one step further and to think about things you can do differently. For example, many teachers have started a classroom protocol where students can notify the teacher that they're having a bad day beforehand. This way, the teacher will be understanding of their situation. Of course, we all need to remember that it is one thing to talk, but it's important to translate this into supportive activities and behaviors.
I can't agree more with that, and even with the pandemic, we can all take action. The world is so connected nowadays, and we need to use this to our advantage. Social media is an amazing tool in spreading information, raising awareness, and highlighting the problems that have been left unaddressed. The best part is, we all have the power to share content online, not only for mental health, but also for other social justice topics. Netizens have been using applications such as Instagram to support each other in times of darkness.
Certainly, it feels like positive responses and a supportive environment can really help people with mental health illness with a better approach towards help seeking and recovery.
Yes, during our interview, Dr. Stewart also mentioned that social support is important for people who have a mental illness in terms of aiding their recovery and ensuring that they don't self-isolate. Support systems can also encourage people with a mental illness to seek timely help and also assist in mainlining treatment regimens.
Yeah, without a doubt, support systems and making sure everyone is heard and cared for is very essential. We strongly encourage schools and families to develop that kind of community support, as well as being considerate of others' mental health state.
On the topic of peer-to-peer support, Dr. Stewart believes that receiving help from others who have recovered from a mental illness is very helpful for those who currently have mental illnesses. From other sources, we also discovered that about 3 in 4 young teens seeking information online about depression said they were looking for personal anecdotes from people who had suffered in the past.
Dr. Stewart also commented that this can provide a sense of hope and help the individual navigate their own personal recovery journey. And to our listeners, please note that to be able to seek support for yourself and provide support to others can curate an enormous amount of hope and faith. This can save lives.
Here, Semicolon wishes to provide a safe space where your voices can be heard, amplified, and validated. We hope to provide a platform where our listeners can hear the voices that have experienced stories that can be shared and understood. Maybe even support you as you are flipping through the chapters of your own stories right now. We believe that no one should be going through this alone. Together, we can challenge the stigma.
To the end, we would like to share with you the significance of semicolon mental health. The semicolon inspires strength and symbolizes affirmation and solidarity against suicide, depression, and other mental health issues. Groups like Project Semicolon have spread the important message that the semicolon represents a continuation and not the end. We hope to amplify this with our podcast and platform.
For more information, please visit our Instagram at project9.official. We are always open for partnerships and for new members to join us in challenging the stigma.
If you're in crisis and in need of assistance, please call 911, your local hotline, or attend to the nearest emergency department.
Thank you all for tuning in to the first episode of the Semicolon podcast.
Remember, your story does not end here.